It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Howdy, hey. Ha ha ha. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman. How are you? We've got two great guests for you today. First one up is Jeff Allen. Jeff Allen's a stand-up comic who has been doing this sort of thing for the past 40 years. And I would have to assume that he knows what he's doing. After all, he's had lots of practice. You can check out his work at jeffallencomedy.com, and we're going to have a short clip that we're going to play in just a second. After Jeff, we've got Dominic Polcino, who's an animator, and he was the animation director for The Simpsons, King of the Hill, and Family Guy. He's done a lot of other work, and he's got a YouTube channel now called Animation Vault, which has a bunch of different clips of his work. So you can check it out on YouTube. Just search Animation Vault, comes right up. The link is also in the show notes. So we've got lots to get to. Here is Jeff Allen.
When I turned 50, I bought a sports car, because that's what a man does. It was either that or start wearing tight leather pants. I don't want to frighten the neighborhood children. And by the way, if I see another man my age riding a bicycle wearing spandex, I'm taking my car and running him into a ditch. In a Christian-loving way, of course. And then I'm going to pick him up and ask him, is there a mirror in your home at all, sport? Come with me, what you need is a friend. I bought a sports car. Actually, I bought a Ford Focus is what I bought. Well, comedy's been good to me, so. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 cylinders of raw power. That car will go 0 to 60, eventually. What a car. I got a speeding ticket. It took me 8 weeks, but I finally got one. Hey, it's not easy in a Focus. I was downhill, had a tailwind, everything was going my way. I don't get the small talk with the police. I was doing 92, which is obviously now, doesn't take a detective to figure out the guy might be in a hurry if he's doing 92. So how about writing a ticket? Let's get on with our lives. And he wanted to chit-chat at the window. Are you aware of how fast you were going? Well, yeah, I got a speedometer right in front of me. You know, the Focus doesn't come with much, but it came with a speed measuring device. To be honest with you, the only thing I was unaware of is where you were sitting.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Jeff Allen. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm breathing, man, and that is, after that, I'm on the right side of the dirt today. That's a good thing.
Let's see, you are a comedian, a stand-up primarily, yes?
Yeah, yes, that's, for 40 years. So
40 years?
Another overnight sensation.
Wow, yeah. Well, what was your first gig?
My first gig, I could tell you what my first paying gig was. I was probably a year into. I did comedy clubs in Chicago started in 1978. And my first paying gig was Cobart's Comedy Cove, and a guy named Arsenio Hall got me hired there. And $10, you work behind the bar, and Cookie the Clown from Bozo Circus would come in on Friday night and get hammered and tell everybody, don't tell anybody I'm here. And within 4 or 5 vodkas in, Cookie would let everybody know he was there. So it didn't matter. So that was my first paying gig, $10, Cobart's Comedy Cove, and I was worth every nickel of the $10, man.
Oh, I bet you were. So you must have seen, if you were doing the comedy circuit back in those days, you must have seen a lot of people come up through the through the ranks, yeah?
Yeah. It was funny. My father was an old jazz musician, and when I told him about Arsenio was one of the first guys that I knew personally that really started clicking. And my father said, "That's the carrot, isn't it?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You all know somebody who came out of your peer group that made it big, and that keeps you going." Because my father couldn't understand why I continued to hit on the road like that. He got off it with music just because it was such a grind, So I said, maybe that's it. I don't know. I enjoy it. I don't look at it as a grind. So.
Have you been able to support yourself for 40 years doing comedy, or do you have to do something else as well?
Yeah, it had highs and lows, but I've never. I tried back in the '90s. I think there was a point where my marriage was falling apart, and I was getting audited by the IRS at that point, and I remember the auditor going, "How many days are you on the road?" And I looked at it; it said 228 days. And it hit me. No wonder she's leaving me. Gosh, I'm never home. So I tried to do some other things, and I remember trying to get a job at the post office. I didn't know. I didn't know anything else. I started at 22. I never had another job, and it was like $9 an hour or $10 an hour. And I came home and told my wife. I said, "Babe, we can't live on a full-time job at the post office." And then there was a job. I was going to try to deliver pizzas because I heard Domino's Pizza will get you a franchise if you're a go-getter. And I went in, and they didn't hire me to deliver pizzas. So I came home and told my wife I'm virtually unemployable. The only skill I have is standing on stage and telling jokes. So we either have to cut our lifestyle in half, or I need to figure out a way to make more money. So we kind of work both ends of that.
That's pretty disheartening when you're not qualified to deliver pizzas. I know.
I said to the kid, I go, "What, are we splitting atoms back there? What do you mean I can't deliver pizza?" And then he got kind of snippy with me. Apparently my job interviewing skills suffered over the years as well. So I didn't know what else. I have no skill set. I really don't. I barely got out of high school, so I can talk. I remember going to a car dealer to try to get a job selling cars. And when I was a young man, I was 19 or 20, and I got on, and I didn't sell a car in a month. The guy goes, "You haven't sold a car." I actually said this to the sales manager. "I don't think they want one." So he said, "Why don't you go home and then sit by the phone, and we'll call you when we get a customer who actually wants a car." "What do you mean they don't want one? That's your job, is to sell them one whether they want one or not." I go, "I can't." Sales was out.
The art of persuasion.
Yeah.
So what is this about? It says keynote for corporate functions and fundraisers around the world. What do you do for that? You do stand-up for corporations?
I do, and I also I just got hired to do I'm going to do a talk. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict, and I've had a number of back in my 30s. I used to say that was my decade of nihilism, and I learned some things that some companies like to hear. About overcoming obstacles and things like that. But most times I just do stand up. I work clean and I don't do politics. And in this day and age, that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about comedy. Have you seen the movie Can You Take a Joke? Can We Take a Joke? Sorry. Can We Take a Joke?
Can We Take a Joke? No, I haven't. What?
If you get it,
the Netflix thing, or was it a feature film?
It's it's on Amazon Prime probably. It's probably on Netflix now. It's a few years old. It was a documentary film made by a guy named Ted Balaker, who was on my show 8 or 9 months ago, and he was promoting the film, which had already been out for some time. He was actually promoting another film. It's kind of a documentary. Adam Carolla's in it, Gilbert Godfrey, Lisa Lampinetti, Penn Jillette, a whole bunch of people. And it's really all about the PC culture that has radically upended the comedy scene, because there's so much stuff that you just can't do anymore, that people are offended by hearing. So if you get a chance, watch it. It's a good movie.
I will. Definitely. I just made a note.
Okay.
Definitely going to watch that.
But I wanted to hit on that point a little bit, because you did say you don't do politics, which is good. And you don't swear profusely in your act, no?
I don't swear at all.
You don't swear at all?
Not at all.
Okay. So I guess I watched a couple.
Offend. I think in America, if your mouth is open and words are coming out, you're going to offend somebody. So,
well, it seems like that now, anyways. But have you run into the PC wall at any point with any of your routines?
Oh, sure. I got thrown off the stage in Seattle by a group of environmental lawyers. I don't even know why they hired me. I really don't.
What did you say?
I asked the lady before the show. What was the attraction? I'm always curious. When I heard they were environmental lawyers in Seattle, because there's just no more woke group of people than that.
Oh yeah.
And she said, well, last year we had a guy come in from L.A. and he did a bunch of politics, and it just upset everybody. So I go up and I do what I do, and which is basically talking about my wife and my kids and marriage and kind of picking on my wife, a lot. And anyway, some woman walks up. I was into talking about my wife's menopause. This woman walks up and goes, leave, get done. You're done, finished, get out. And I looked at her and I look at my watch. I go, I got 15 minutes. I said, half the room walked already. I said, why don't you go join the other half of the room that's out in the bar talking about me? I mean, I wasn't bothered by it. I don't understand that. In my lifetime, I can't think of any time I was in a room where somebody was speaking where I got so offended that I had to shut them up. I couldn't just leave. I've been bored. That bothers me more than anything. If I wasted 45 minutes of my time, but I don't get angry about it. I just go, well, okay, chalk it up. I won't go see this person again. I went to see Mark Twain with Hal Holbrook.
Oh yeah.
And I love that. And my wife hated it. She fell asleep in the middle of Hal Holbrook doing Mark Twain.
Wow.
And I woke her up at one point and I go, how could you do this? Are you kidding me? This is iconic. You're going to see this again? She goes, it's boring. So I go, okay. But she didn't run up to Hal Holbrook and go, shut up, get out of
Get
here.
off the stage.
You can't, she went to sleep. That's what people do. But no, these group, and I told my manager when I got back, I go, I'm staying out of the city of Seattle, man, for corporate. I can't. I just am not woke enough, and I get it. I mean, I understand, but I don't understand the vitriol and the anger behind it. I really don't. There was certainly, I knew comics whose goal was to offend. That was their goal, and they went about it in a methodical way. My goal is not to offend; it's to entertain, and I've done it enough. I've put in my time, and I know what I do works. And for that rare occasion where somebody just stands up in a huff and walks out, I don't give it a thought.
Well, one of the points in this film was they were making a kind of a statement regarding Lenny Bruce, who back in those days was arrested several times at various clubs that he performed at for obscenity, right? But he was always welcome on the college campuses. In fact, one of the college campuses that was his particular favorite for because they loved him so much was Berkeley. Now, that all has changed because I bet you that Berkeley would not welcome Lenny Bruce today if he was doing the same routine.
Or Carlin.
Or Carlin. No.
Yeah. Anybody who pushed back at the cultural norms. They've tried to slam the door. It's like they got their agenda in, and then they slammed the door behind them and said, we're not going to offer any new ideas. And it's funny because I always looked at the 60s and 70s to me, again, I may be a little biased because that's what, I grew up listening to Carlin and Pryor and Lenny Bruce and those guys. And the term edge came because there was a line of mores in society and culture that were kind of basically understood. So comics would go up to that line. They'd the edge. They'd go to the edge and they'd kick the line or they'd step over the line and then it was like this shock, like, oh, wow, and the line has been obliterated. And I think today, the PC culture, they move the line. Nobody knows where the line is. And it's arbitrary. And,
it's arbitrary,
so,
exactly.
Guys like me just go, I'm not even going to, I'm not even going to try to do anything culturally relevant because it's senseless. You're not going to. I have, I don't know, 60, 70,000 Facebook followers, and not one of them have ever asked me my opinion on anything. You'd think if my opinion was relevant, somebody that's a fan of mine would have asked me what my opinion is on it, and I got none of it. So I just, whatever I'm doing works for me, and I'm going to do it. But as far as guys like Carlin, you're right. They would not be welcome on a college campus today because George loved poking the sacred cows. Didn't matter what they were. He just wanted to poke the sacred cows. And he should. Good comics do that.
You know who else, who was one of my favorites of the time, who would definitely not be welcome today, would be Freddie Prinze.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they would tell him how to speak about his own race.
Exactly. And he made fun of everybody.
Talk that way about about yourself.
He was funny as hell. Yeah. Funny as hell, that guy. And the big comics of the day loved him. I mean, Rickles was like a huge fan of Freddie Prinze. Johnny Carson was too. And this kid
I got a chance
was
to see
19.
Rickles. I was working the Trop, and I saw Rickles.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I go, what a classic. What a throw. I mean, it was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the way he talked about his black piano player was just, I mean, if he tried that today, my goodness, they haul him out in cuffs. They haul him out in handcuffs. It just, and it's sad because it was a style of comedy that, he was brilliant at. And you couldn't even begin to do that style of comedy today.
No, well, what is the style? What is this, aside from yours? I watched a couple of your clips. I mean, what is considered acceptable, or is anything not considered acceptable? Like you said, they just move the line arbitrarily wherever they want. So where's a comic supposed to go with his work?
That's a good question. But if you watch Bill Burr doesn't seem to care too much about what they think. And Burr covers and hits and hammers a lot of different things, and he's good at it. He's brilliant at it. And there's no continue. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Consistent point of view. It's just where he sees hypocrisy, he'll point it out. And there's enough hypocrisy to go around. Certainly for everybody. But you're right. I don't know. I'm 62 years old. I've been at it for 40 years. I kind of, I know what works for me. And my job, I look at my job as to just entertain and let people forget about whatever they're weighed down with for that hour and a half. And I'll leave the changing of the world to the younger guys that are coming up. Yeah, but I think there's enough pushback. You mentioned Lisa Lampanelli.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites. I absolutely love, but that's the kind of stuff we used to do in Chicago when I started in '78. The blacks talked about the whites talked about the blacks, and the Hispanics had their own. There were all these cultural differences because of the different neighborhoods in the city. And it was good natured. It was funny. There was no malice behind it, and nothing malicious. It was just stereotypes, but it was fun stuff, and nobody seemed to be bothered by it. And it was about the mid to late '80s I started noticing a shift, and I wasn't allowed to talk about my black friends and the difference between, I used to do an old bit about paying a toll. Black families would do hook shots out the passenger side window and stuff. They just stereotype benign stuff, and all of a sudden it just wasn't getting any laughs, and the culture was changing. That, probably late '80s.
Yeah, and it's sad because I'm just a few years younger than you. I'm 57, so we kind of grew up in the same pop culture and the same people we watched on TV, and it just doesn't make any sense. What do you think about? Here's someone else we can try. What about Seinfeld? His routines were kind of so obscure. I don't know.
Right.
Would he offend anybody in the PC police these days or not?
Well, he came out and said that he's no longer going to do college campuses. And I looked at my wife when I read that online. I said, if Seinfeld is not accepted on a college campus, it's over. Because it's just observations on just the minutia of life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how could you not talk about milk duds in a movie theater case? I don't know. You know, I mean, it just, that's it. It's over as far as, you know, I don't know. I don't push to do colleges anymore. I did a tour of colleges back when I was in my 30s. And I haven't really been back there. But yeah, if Jerry and again, I heard Chris Rock, you know, said the same thing, that he's not really welcome on college, or he doesn't want to do colleges because of the restrictions.
So it really is not just exclusive to white males. Chris Rock has the same
Not at all.
issues too. Yeah.
Well, apparently, because yeah, he said the same thing. He's
Wow.
just done with the colleges.
I don't know when the colleges got so uptight. It's unbelievable. I'm glad I don't have kids that are that age. How about you? According to this, you got 2 boys.
Well, yeah. I was thrilled. You know, it was funny. I wrestled with my kids their entire childhood to care about school. They never cared. They would just go, show up, get their C's, you know. And I finally said to my wife at some point, I am so glad they never paid attention. You know, because of this flop we would have to deprogram out of their heads. And now my oldest is going to college. He's 34 years old. And he was hauling HVAC for 2 years, and he threw his back and knees. He's almost crippled from hauling HVAC at 34 years old. So he decided to start using his brain. And he was on the dean's list his first semester at college. So we're proud of him. But yeah, I can't imagine. My granddaughters, one's being homeschooled and one's going to public school. So we'll see what the difference is in 10 years.
How old are they?
They're 6 and 5 right now, so they're young.
Oh, okay. What did you say your son was hauling? What? I didn't quite catch what that was.
HVAC, heating and air conditioning.
Oh, HVAC. Okay, all right.
Yeah, just hauling those big pieces of equipment around. He's as strong as a bull. He really is. And anyway, he's shot. He already had 2 knee surgeries. He goes, I do this 10 more years, man, I'll be on disability at 42 or whatever. So
he'll be in a wheelchair.
Man, I told my kids when they were in the high school, you can use your back or you can use your mind, make a living. You know? I said I prefer using my brain. I'm a wuss.
Well, I have to agree with you. If my brain had a body, it would be Arnold Schwarzenegger at 19, you know. But my real body is perfect for radio. I have absolutely the perfect radio body. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
For standing on stage and speaking, I got the body for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told my dad, it was funny, I did construction. My dad wound up in construction, and one summer I worked for him. And I dropped out of college after a year, and he says, what are you going to do? I go, I don't know, but I got a short list of things I'm not going to do. And concrete is right on that list, man. It's at the top. I am not cut out for troweling concrete. I hate calluses and I hate lime burns. Yeah, first time I shook my father-in-law's hand, he was a blue collar guy. And I was dating his daughter, and I shake his hand, and he looks at me, and he looks at his hand, and he goes, what do you do? You know, because my father-in-law had calluses on calluses.
Oh, yeah.
Just a hard work. And I used to say you could shoot him in the hand with a 45 and it wouldn't even dent the hand.
Just bounce off.
And he looks at me and he goes, what do you do? I mean, it was like, I hit golf balls, I tell jokes. That's pretty much my life. So, nothing of labor. Labor and I never saw eye to eye.
No, me either. I used to live in Boston, and I had a house with a big yard. I don't do that. I don't do that anymore.
My son was born in Framingham.
Huh?
So, yeah.
Your son was born?
My son was born in Framingham.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I grew up there most of my life, and I moved to Las Vegas in 2005. Just had enough of the New England winter. But I remember having the yard, and in the summertime, you'd have to cut the grass. And even that was like after, you'd work all day. And I said, you know what? I'm getting one of those tractors with the cup holder, and I can just, after work, I can have my drink, and I can ride around, cut the grass.
Yeah.
And we used to joke about that to the Canadian friends of ours, saying, did you know in America that if you drive a lawn tractor over more than 1 acre, it's considered a full body workout? And he said, oh yeah, it's in the Constitution, I think. It was like a whole gag. But that was the extent of my. I
bought one of those big bad boy riding mowers for I got a couple acres, and I just drive around like you said, man. I put the headphones on, I listen to music, and I ride my mower, And if my wife was kind to me, she wouldn't have planted all these little fruit trees that I got to work around. That's the pain of it,
Oh, that's
when you know you really have a soft life. When your biggest complaint in life is your wife planted 6 fruit trees, and you got to stop and start and back up your mower 3 or 4 times to get around it.
You got an obstacle course to get through. Yeah,
that's pretty sad, man. It really is.
Wow, God bless
What do they call
America.
them? First world problems. First world problems.
America's a great country if that's our biggest problems. Exactly. Jeff, we got to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on. Where are you performing next in the next few weeks?
They can go to my website, jeffallencomedy.com. I got a new tour starting called The America I Grew Up In, and it's kind of a look back on how many things have changed from when I was a kid, from bike helmets to these stupid playground rules and free-range kids versus these helicopter parents. I was saying to my wife the other day, I read in the paper that the government recommends you can't get a kid out of a car seat till they're at least 4'9", and I said that the entire women's Olympic gymnastic team has to ride in a booster seat to get to the gym. I said, we've lost our minds. I'm gonna get a hernia hauling my granddaughter in and out of the car. She's 54 pounds, man. And I don't even know what age you could take them out. Probably 18. Here's your high school diploma. You get to ride home like a big boy today. So anyway, that's the tour. America I Grew Up In, and they can go. And I'm all over the place. I'm going to Houston. I'm going to Detroit, Irvine, California. The Improv there. The Improv in Houston. Comedy Castle in Detroit, and a number of small theaters, performing arts places and stuff. So
super.
They can check that out.
All right, so check out Jeff at jeffallencomedy.com. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a real treat to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
What was the name of that movie again? It was the Can We Take a Joke?
Can we take a joke?
Okay.
Yeah, check it out. It's a great film.
Man.
All right.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
The Douglas Coleman Show is now offering a complete radio promotional package for music artists. Your track will air 28 times a week for 1 month over all of our online and terrestrial platforms, as well as permanently archive on Spreaker, iTunes, and many other sites. Your profile will also be featured in our featured music artists page on our website. With this package, you will also get a 15-minute interview on our show to promote your latest single, EP, LP, or upcoming gig. Similar packages like this can run hundreds of dollars and often are subscription-based. Our package is a one-time fee of just $49.99. Please go to douglascolemanmusic.com/CRPP. That's douglascolemanmusic.com/CRPP for complete details. Let's work together to get your music heard.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps, record producer. This is my story about Elton John, working with him in those early years, going back to 1967 at Dick James, all the amazing tours, those first recordings, going through to Rocket Records, and it's an amazing story about his incredible rise to stardom and my part in that. So look forward to taking you on that journey. So here we go. Yeah, and to order this great audio CD, please just email me at stuartepps@talk21.com. That's Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, Epps, E-P-P-S, at talk, T-A-L-K, 21 in figures.com. Stuart Epps at talk21.com. Email me and I'll give you all the details for buying this brilliant audio disc. Thank you, bye.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Dominic Polcino. Hi, Dominic. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. I've been really excited to have you on because I'm one of these people that when I get interested in a particular topic, I love to dissect it. And I've always wanted to talk to an animator. You're the first one who I've had on the show, so I'm very excited. I got lots of questions. So I thought I would do this interview, since we have a limited amount of time. I thought I would do this interview like a 3-act play. And we'll do your background first, but don't talk too much about what you've done. Just kind of talk about you. And then I want to get into the animation process a little bit. And then we'll talk about your work and your projects and all that. Okay, does that sound all right?
Sounds really interesting. Sounds cool.
So first, just tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what kind of stuff you were drawing when you were a little kid that made you want to be an animator.
I guess I grew up in Washington State, and my dad did some cartoons and was a writer and a photographer, so he encouraged that in our family. I think I watched just a lot of fun cartoons like Warner Brothers, and that was before VHS tapes or even anything you could see online. Now you could see anything online and freeze frame and learn. Back then, I'd be watching a cartoon for an hour and try to draw one Bugs Bunny out of that, just looking at the TV and trying to get it on the fly. That's how his ear is. Okay, I'll wait for the next cartoon and get his nose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I just liked anything that was funny and got drawn to that.
Okay. One of the things that I've always been fascinated about with animation, and this is what I was kind of alluding to a few minutes ago, I saw this documentary film a long time ago, and they did it at Disney, and it was probably shot in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And it was kind of just going through their animation department. And I just remember being just completely overwhelmed by the number of people. There must have been 60 people in this room. everybody sitting at a drafting board, everybody drawing for the same cartoon. And it was like frame by frame by frame. And I think they said it was 28 drawings per second of animation. Every little minuscule detail. And it's just this incredible amount of labor to put together, like a 5-minute cartoon. I assume that process has changed thanks to computers. So exactly what is the process? I mean, somebody still has to draw something, right?
Yeah. Well, it's 24 frames a second. So 24. If they were shooting it one drawing per second, that would be 24 drawings. The normal way that people have been doing it since after Disney has been on twos. So you can get away with 12 drawings a second. And it still looks fine. It actually kind of looks more snappy when you have a little bit of less drawings. But once you get to 3s or 4s, which is more like anime, then you can kind of notice it's choppy. But the standard, like on Simpsons or something, is like two frames per drawing. What was the question again? Sorry.
Just how has the process changed from then until...
I guess I wanted to start with how it started and then go to how it changed.
Go ahead.
Just to make sure everybody's following. But it's like, well, I mean, and actually Winsor McKay did his own, like, I think they were on ones, but it was like just one guy doing it. You were talking about 60 people.
Right.
Well, in normal shows before computer's only been around since like the 90s, as far as us using it more in animation. Everything has been drawn. I mean, a lot of it's done out of house. So we do all the key stuff in Burbank or wherever the studio is. We do the storyboarding and the designing, but then all the in-betweening stuff that you're talking about is like usually farmed out. Like Simpsons goes to Korea. Right now on like shows like Rick and Morty and HarmonQuest that I work on, they are going to a place in Canada that does all the extra drawings. But the way they do it is they might build the character instead of drawing every single in between, which we've been doing. Now they can like build the character as sort of a wireframe, but it's 2D wireframe. And then that way they can like say move an arm, and it's a little more like puppeting, but they try to make it look hand-drawn because that still has the most charm.
Oh, I see. Okay, I've actually seen some of that. It's like stick figures, basically, right?
Yeah. If it's handled well, it comes across like it's normal animation, but it saves them some time. And on storyboards, we used to like draw on paper, and now we have these tablets that are called Cintiqs that we draw directly on the screen. So it's a lot easier to like edit on them and time an animatic to the soundtrack. Easier to fix things than we used to do on paper.
So you actually could just take a tablet and you've got like a fake pen that you can do your drawing right on the tablet?
Yep.
One of the people, or one of the two people who were really instrumental in kind of changing it from the old style to a newer version was Hanna-Barbera. And I know a little bit of the background of them because it was purely about money, where they had to create a weekly cartoon, and it was just too incredibly labor intensive to have 60 guys drawing. So they cut it all down. They called it, what did they call it? Limited animation? Was that sort of the beginnings of what you were talking about, where they cut it down from 24 frames to 12 frames and just made the process a lot faster so they could...
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like before that, you might have an old Popeye Fleischer cartoon that just is super labor intensive and just probably really expensive. And Hanna-Barbera probably made a lot of shortcuts. I kind of would want to go back to some shortcuts because I work on a lot of television, and it feels like we're just kind of going crazy. Like, oh, he runs into space or whatever, and it's like, well, we've done that 10 times already. Why can't we just grab, like they were really smart at Hanna-Barbera to just grab assets. Here's those Flintstone legs running, and they could just throw it in anywhere.
So they were doing cut and paste back then, yeah?
Yeah, and reuse, probably a lot of reused reaction shots or something, and just put a new background depending on what the scene entails.
Oh, okay.
But I think it takes a certain amount of time and effort on the production side then to catalog all that stuff, so you know where those assets are. So it's almost easier for shows now to just wing it and go, let's just do it again.
Well, I noticed that sometimes the characters got a little less detailed. Like the Flintstones only had 3 or 4 fingers. Was it just simply easier to draw 3 fingers than to draw 5?
Oh, it's definitely easier. Yeah. When I first had to do my first 5-finger show, it was like King of the Hill, and that's like anatomy. But 3 fingers has its own problems too. Then, if you want a character to like flip somebody off or do something that you can only do with 5 fingers. I think on The Simpsons, doesn't Bart say he does 3-finger discount when he steals?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Right. They kind of made good jokes about it, how the 3 fingers is kind of silly.
So, okay, well, that helps me out a lot with kind of putting together where it was and where it's gone. So now, essentially, everything can just be cataloged on a computer. You can just have all your files of everything. How is it different for like these big productions like Aladdin or Cinderella or some of these, huge animated things? Is the process any different than doing The Simpsons?
From what I know, yeah. I haven't worked on features myself, but I know a lot of people there, and I even have a friend who's a cinematographer who used to be a live action cinematographer who does cinematography at Disney movies like Frozen or something. So he'll get like assets and then add the camera on top, and it's all digital. But they still need there's so many different, more than TV. I think there's a lot on feature. There's just a lot more categories of quality, and because they spend a lot more money.
Well, that's true. But somebody is still drawing the basic characters, correct?
Yeah. You'll have a design department that kind of hones down what the style of the characters are, and then somebody who will storyboard it that might not even have to draw it as perfect, but is more about what the shot is and what the acting and action is. And then someone else will come in later and put the model back on top of those sloppy drawings. Okay. And then there's probably lighting people and color people, of course. It's a big production. I mean, on my shows, it's like 30 people on a small show. So a movie is probably like 3 times that or more.
Just doing the animation, just in the animation department. Wow.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. If you watch the end of a Pixar credits, there's probably a lot of technical people too, because of the software involved. Okay. But those are 3D. We're doing 2D, so it's still old school in TV.
TV is still old school, you said?
Most of the time, TV is old school because it's still 2D drawings. We're not doing 3D. So most of it has to still be hand drawn.
For an example, like South Park, the animation seemed really crude by a lot of standards, but they sort of compensated by having very risque subject matter. But the actual animation itself looked pretty simple, I think.
Oh, yeah, you threw in another curve there. That's a whole nother thing in its own self, yeah. They make a fake like cutout style. It's actually all digital, but they're pretending it's like paper cutouts.
Right, yeah.
And I'm kind of impressed. The animation actually has gotten better over the years with what they have to use. It's the characters that look really flat, but when they move, they really kind of have a lot of attitude.
I'm not criticizing them. I'm just making an observation that, you know, compared to other animated things that I've seen, it's pretty basic what they've done. But you don't really notice it because of the crazy stories that they've done with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it probably helps that the style is so basic. It helps that content, because it might be creepier if you really drew all that stuff out that they talk about.
Yeah, true. It might be a little bit over the top or too edgy for some people.
And I think most primetime shows, it's funny, there's an ugliness to them that I think appeals to people. Like the cuter a drawing is, it's more for kids, but the uglier it gets, the more you think it's adult content, or it vibes adult.
What was that one that I kept seeing? Something called Adult Swim?
Yeah, so Adult Swim, that's like the late night cartoons on Cartoon Network, I think.
Yeah.
It's sort of a hodgepodge of things.
I don't remember a lot about it. It was kind of Japanese anime looking, yeah?
They throw a bunch of stuff against the wall there, yeah. Some of it's anime, some of it's stuff created here. There's a pretty fun show called Hot Streets that's very surreal. Yeah, a lot of interesting experimental stuff that they try to do more adult for this late night.
The Japanese anime stuff, that's kind of its own genre, yeah? Because it has a particular look about it. And yeah, I think, didn't that come from the manga comic books, and then they just brought it to life? Is that how that started? I know it started like with Speed Racer was probably the first one that Americans saw back in the 70s.
Yeah, definitely. I watched that growing up. I never was really part of the anime thing when I grew up. I know most people that I work with that are like millennials, they're totally into it, but I don't really get that stuff. I get it, but I don't usually watch it. Because I want to see funny things and not as much action-y things. To me, that appeals to me is just more of what we can do that's funny.
Well, let's talk about what you've done. You've done quite a few things. You did The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Family Guy. You were the animation director for all of those shows?
Yeah, one of several.
So what exactly is your function? What is is it similar to just the director of a film?
Yeah. You'll get the screenplay will be done, and then the basic soundtrack of dialogue of the actors will be recorded, and that will go to the director, who will then oversee a group of designers and storyboard artists trying to bang out that episode and try to find the best way to tell the jokes through the shots and the acting and the designs, and all that stuff kind of plays a part, and you kind of choreograph. Yeah, the kind of beginning to end of the episode.
Now, did you actually do any of the drawing for those shows, or no?
Oh yeah. You'll have to be hands on and do parts of it and oversee other parts of it. So it's helpful if you already know. Maybe you started out as a animator or a storyboard artist, and then worked yourself to directing, so that you kind of know all the aspects of drawing, and even if you're a painted or something, that could come in handy to help in color. So you kind of have a final say, except a producer above you that might veto your decisions. But otherwise, you're trying to just make the best episode using your skills and overseeing a team of highly talented people.
So a character like Bart Simpson, I assume he would be a copyrighted character to whoever created him, correct?
Mm-hmm. Simpsons was created by Matt Groening. He was the cartoonist, whose style it was. And then he gets co-creation with Sam Simon, who was the first writer, and James Brooks, who was the producer of it. So those three guys are going to get all the money, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I guess I was more curious about who actually owns Bart Simpson.
Probably Fox, really, at this point. I don't know how things work. But yeah, they can't license it without Fox's approval.
Okay, so the actual rights to Bart Simpson, Fox would own, certainly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I guess that's the same with all the different Rick and Morty's, probably owned by Cartoon Network.
Who did Beavis and Butthead?
That was Mike Judge.
Mike Judge, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and he went to do King of the Hill later.
Right, okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about, what is your latest one now? It's the Game of Thrones animation?
Starting a little YouTube channel and it's called Animation Vault. I did a bunch of shorts that were sort of little Mad Magazine kind of spoofs of Game of Thrones. And I have another series that's spoofing Doctor Who.
Wow. Okay.
And very niche market. But if you've seen the shows, they actually have really insightful comedic notes, if you know what it's very nichey though. But I did one that was a spoof of the return of Twin Peaks.
Okay.
And that was pretty successful. That got like 20,000 views. But now my new stuff's getting low views because I think YouTube changed their algorithms, and I have no idea how to keep up with that and what you can possibly do.
Everybody is upset at YouTube. I mean, I pulled my promotion of my channel because I was so angry at the way that they sort of demonetized me all of a sudden. And a lot of people got demonetized. So I don't know what they did, but they certainly pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, there was the demonetizing, and now there's the not even getting any views, even if it is for free. Yeah, I'm not getting any money, and they're not showing it to anyone. I hope someone comes along with another version of YouTube. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Yeah, if they could steal away half of their customers, that would be great.
All they'd have to do is promise to give the creators a little money instead of taking it all for themselves.
Well, a penny here, a penny there, that's all, unless you're getting hundreds of millions of views.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's similar. It's like the music industry in the sense that 1% of the musicians are getting 90% of the money. And I think it's the same way with YouTube. I think that Justin Bieber video or a Katy Perry video or, something like that. Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift, who gets, close to 1 billion views. She's raking in a fortune on the monetization. But these guys that do stuff that get 10,000, 20,000, which is good, I think that's very good, they're not getting hardly anything. I know several musicians who they get hundreds of thousands of views on their videos. Very slick music videos. Yeah, and they'll get a check from YouTube for like $60. It's like, what the hell's the point? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, seems like there was a pocket. I don't know how this was with music, but with YouTube, there might have been like a year or two where it was very democratic and everybody was getting the hits they deserved and the money they deserved for those hits.
I did want to ask you about one other thing that you did, and then we got to kind of wrap it.
Okay.
You did something called Lovesick Fool.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Okay.
I did a personal project called Lovesick Fool. It's now on Amazon Prime, and I did it, I animated it all by myself. It's 45 minutes long, and I got Lisa Kudrow in it, and Janina Garofalo, and Fred Willard to play parts. It's kind of autobiographical. And it's, it was my baby. And actually, I got a lot of, because you're into music and stuff, there's a lot of good music I got the rights to put in there. Some stuff from Regina Spektor and Sigur Rós and even a David Bowie song. And I really think that, I'm totally into movie soundtracks. So when I finally got the chance to make a movie, I was like trying to put all the stuff that I love in there.
So when did that come out?
That's been up there for like a year. And anybody can see it who has Amazon Prime.
It's not on YouTube, I take it.
Nope. No. There's a few clips there, but not the
whole thing. Yeah. Do you have a website that you want to tell people about?
Just check out my shorts. Subscribe to Animation Vault. That'd be amazing on YouTube.
They just go to Animation Vault, just search that?
Yeah, just search that on YouTube, and there's a bunch of fun shorts. Hopefully there's something funny and fun to watch. And I want to keep putting stuff up there if it's not too depressing. But just because I want to keep creating little ideas and just maybe show pitches and interesting stuff like that.
Well, Dominic, we got to wrap. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the technical details of animation, because I've always been curious, and finally had some questions answered. I would ask other people who had worked on stuff, and they'd say, I don't know. They had no idea. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Douglas. Thanks for the time. It's been fun.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guests, Jeff Allen and Dominic Polcino. This is Douglas Coleman saying I'll see you when I see you.